Ahead of this one on Saturday night. How's the body? How's training camp? How's everything been?
For this training camp. I mean, I had a lot of personal issues at the beginning of camp, end of my last fight. That was kind of like holding me back, getting in the way of things. In the last couple months, I feel like a lot of things got resolved. I was able to focus a lot on training, getting better in this fight in particular. So yeah, I'm in a great place right now, mentally, physically. Everything's really lining up for me.
Is that the thing that probably the outsiders don't really understand, that like personal life stuff can actually affect your training, can affect the way you fight, and can just kind of mess with you in general the whole time? Is that something that we just don't appreciate from the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because you don't want to give yourself an excuse, but at the end of the day, you have to actually deal with that crap that's holding you back on the outside. You can't just say, like, oh, that's not going to affect me. And the entire time you're sitting there thinking about, like, all right, go out there and fight your opponent. But you have this thing that's sitting right there in the back of your head. It's kind of like taking every thought, every emotion away from you, not being able to, like, actually focus in on what this task at hand is. So getting those things off the table, get those things out of the way was a huge relief for me. And I feel like now I'm in a great place.
Cool. I think, you know, Ian Gary made a very public call out of you, not something that many people do. So I think, you know, look, Phil's a great opponent, but when you heard that call out, what was your reaction to his call out? And were you interested in that fight, or were you just like, no, I've got Phil and we'll focus on that?
Yeah, I was definitely I was focused on having to fight with Phil. I knew I had a fight already scheduled, so I couldn't get too far away from the opponent that I already had scheduled or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely a call out that's worth entertaining. I mean, the guy is currently, I believe, ranked in the top 15. I believe he's undefeated in UFC as well. So it definitely is a matchup that definitely intrigues me. But first things first, I got Phil Saturday night, so I try to like really focus on that one first.
It's funny, right? Because stylistically, you're not a guy that many people want to call out. So when you are sitting there and you're watching TV and you suddenly hear your own name, is that like a kind of a trippy experience to be like, oh, he's talking about me?
Yes and no. I mean, I know it comes with it. It's just more so about a numbers game. Like, I've been called out literally by every single fighter in the top 15 right now at some point or another. But them actually following through and saying, like, oh, yeah, that's the fight I really, really want, that rarely ever happens. You know what I mean? Like, after the fight, when they ask you, hey, who want to fight next, it's easier to look at the number behind the name and say, oh, yeah, I want to fight this guy, and know, like, the willingness that I'm really going to say yes to whomever it is or whatever. So it is surprising that was the call out at all. But is it something they really want at the end of the day? I highly doubt it.
Where do you see your success coming on Saturday night against?
I feel like it comes with me just being able to go out there and really push the pace and fight my fight. Like, I feel like if I go out there and just be relentless and keep pushing the pace, I can find a way to break him in the fight.
Not that I'm trying to retire you or anything, but like, you are creeping up to like 40 fights. You are 35, right? So I'm just wondering, like, you're still very competitive, but have you thought about like retirement at all? Has it ever crossed your mind?
Nah, not even close. Nah, never crossed my mind yet. I mean, there's still a lot to be done in the sport. I know I've been in the sport for a while. I know I've done a lot thus far, but I'm still healthy. I'm still doing well. I'm still very competitive with the guys in my division. So for me, there's no side of retirement anytime soon. But one of those things that's like, I'll go to the gym on a daily basis, like, ooh, that was a rough one. Neil got kind of roughed up today. Maybe I'll consider it, but that's not the case at all. I'm going out there. I'm very competitive with my peers as far as the guys I'm fighting against, and I'm very competitive against my peers in the gym as well. So with that being the case, I don't see retirement anytime soon for me.
Yeah. When you started this thing back in 2012, I believe, right? Did you think you were gonna like be close to like logging in 40 fights? Like, how did you see yourself in the sport? Did you feel like you were gonna have this much longevity?
Honestly, to see myself come this far, I did not see this at all. I mean, especially the way my UFC career started out. I started out 1-2 on the verge of being cut by the UFC. I honestly thought at the end, that second loss in a row, going 1-2 my first year, that was it. I was gonna get cut. Literally every single person that was on my Ultimate Fighter cast or whatever, they all got cut after 2 losses or whatever. So I was like, well, there it is. This is my run. I even went as far as like taking the Denver police exam, because I thought, like, all right, well, that's it. My UFC career is over. Let me go ahead and transition to the next thing and keep moving forward. And I got an opportunity to go out there and compete in UFC again. That took me on a 7-fight win streak. Was able to get ranked and haven't looked back ever since.
Yeah, nice. And you mentioned there's still a lot to get done. What are those things? Like, do you have a list of goals, of records you want to break, of places you want to fight? Like, what else is there left to do in the sport for you?
Yeah, ultimately the biggest goal for me is the UFC championship. I mean, that's still a huge goal for me. That's still something I feel that's attainable. I still feel like that's within reach for me. So that's definitely the biggest goal for me within this sport. Along the way, if I'm able to accomplish certain things like most wins, most whatever that I can set along the way, great. I'll take those accolades as as they come. But for me, the biggest thing is keep my eyes set on that big prize, which is the UFC championship.
Yeah. And I want to ask you, speaking of the belt, Colby's supposed to fight at some point against Leon Edwards. We still don't have a date for that or a card, but overall, like, what are your thoughts on that fight? Do you feel like Leon Edwards keeps his belt?
It's so hard to be. I don't want to feel like I'm being biased or whatever, but I honestly think that Colby might be able to take that belt from Leon just stylistically, with the wrestling pressure and that kind of thing. I mean, even with the last 2 fights with Usman, when Usman decided to put the pressure on him and wrestle him and things like that, Leon really struggled in the fight. When Usman decided to back off and allow Leon space to move around and execute his own striking, that's where he tend to find the most success. I don't think Colby's gonna make the same kind of mistake. Colby's not a fighter that necessarily cares about like the crowd's opinion or the media's opinion as far as like how he fights. He just really want to go out there and get it done by any means necessary. So I could definitely see Colby going out there and just kind of put on a wrestling clinic against Leon and getting it done that way.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool, no problem. Going once, going twice. Sold. Awesome. Thank you guys.